Hello and welcome to the BigFix Briefing Room. My name is Michelle McGough. I'm here with Mr. Joe Saylor, and this month we're going to talk about Microsoft Patch Tuesday. Joe's got some other exploits and vulnerabilities picked out to talk to you about, and then we've got a new release of BigFix Compliance that we'll share with you at the end. Joe, you want to kick us off?
Sure thing. All right, so by the numbers, we got 81 CVEs this month. Fairly normal amount, not particularly high, not particularly low. Totally in the Goldilocks zone. We only have 2 0 days for you, and I do have one pretty gnarly acceleration for high performance compute nodes. So first up, we have kind of a pseudo zero day. I'm calling it a pseudo zero day because this is a vulnerability that has been around since the dawn of time. This is like seriously a dinosaur age vulnerability in SMB. And this isn't even a patch for it. This actually only enables auditing for endpoints that are attempting to communicate over vulnerable versions of SMB. So that's all this adds. The mitigations for this have existed also since the dawn of time. That's extended protection for authentication, which is just a setting on the server, and SMB server signing, also a setting on the SMB server. Content for that has been available in compliance through our checklists since forever. So it's a little weird that we're calling this a 0 day since these mitigations have existed just since the dawn of time.
So why are they bringing it up again now? What's changed?
Yeah, it's mostly to help organizations that have legacy applications determine where they're vulnerable and not where they're vulnerable, but where they're going to cause themselves problems by enabling these mitigations. So they're turned off a fair amount of the time because like really, really old applications that run over SMB may not support server signing. The original specification for SMB, like the whole problem is the default configuration is just completely vulnerable to everything, right? There's encryption is not enabled by default. There's no signing enabled by default. And so that just default configuration got used by a lot of older applications. And without a good way to find which clients are attempting to connect over these protocols, it's very difficult to turn it on without causing yourselves issues.
Okay, so are there, so organizations are going to find this out when they're modernizing basically their existing kind of older solutions. That's when this is going to sort of surface. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, so once you turn on, say, SMB server signing, which requires a signature of the client to sign its authentication requests, well, if your application doesn't support signing the authentication request, then your application doesn't work. It just suddenly stops working. So that's when you would find it out. With this patch, you can enable auditing, and so you can find out when clients are sending these unsigned requests today, so you can better track where your problems might be.
Fantastic. Thanks for breaking this down, Joe. What's
yeah.
next?
Yeah, so you know, still on the same vulnerability here, I thought it might be a good time to discuss exactly how the attack works on SMB. In this case, it's called an NTLM Relay Attack. So it's sort of a machine in the middle enabled attack where the attacker has to have some node in between your client endpoint and your server endpoint. This can be accomplished in a bunch of different ways. Like the most common one is you exploit NetBIOS. So basically, if I today try to ping, say, like I misplace a dot on google.com, I go to goog.lecom. DNS doesn't know where to send me, right? It doesn't have anything at all. But Windows asks the subnet if anybody else will respond to goog.lecom, right? And so an attacker could, if an attacker has some node, some Raspberry Pi tiny box on the same subnet, it'll just intercept that, and now a unprotected server that doesn't have any of these mitigations turned on, they can just steal that session because there's no signing involved. Yeah. It just hands off as soon as you get an NTLM authentication token, then you can just forward that anywhere as long as signing isn't enabled. So then the attacker just has your session and can do whatever they want with it.
Okay, well, I think if anybody didn't understand the value of this, that should be crystal clear now. Yeah, and to your point, it's been around forever. So I hope nobody falls into this challenge and they get in front of it with the auditing. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of worry about the Streisand effect on this one, right? Like nobody's thought about NTLM relay attacks for a long time, but now, attack groups, our good friend Salt Typhoon, are going to have this front of mind, right? That, oh, by the way, the SMB vulnerabilities exist, and then they're going to start hammering on it again, right? So that's honestly my main worry here.
Well, I mean, every successful organization goes through a change or an evolution like this at some point. So, yeah, I think this is a time where everybody should be looking out for this. So if you're one of those organizations that has some custom old apps out there, might be worth taking a look. Thank you, Joe. Okay, I'm sorry, -605 day.
Yeah, we're just continuing the trend of extremely old 0 days. So yeah, this Newtonsoft.json vulnerabilities was first reported in January of 2024. So this is a 605-day-old disclosure. Clearly, no one's cared about it for a very long time. It's kind of a simple denial of service vulnerability. So if an attacker manages to pass through SQL a malicious command, then they can crash the SQL server. Like that's essentially it. So it's a denial of service on SQL. Again, it's been around and disclosed for a very long time, and there still isn't any known code working out in the wild that can just network crash your SQL server. So just in general, it's fairly low priority, and so I'm it's kind of disingenuous to call it a 0 day because it's been around way longer than 0 days, right? Yeah, so it's not particularly pressing, but it's out there and we got to talk about it.
That's just a random find, so I appreciate it. It's interesting. Okay, what's next?
All right, and yeah, this is our really big one for the month. This is the one I would really recommend accelerating if you can. So these high performance compute pack nodes are generally for like research and just really complex single problems where you need to aggregate, say, thousands of processors to throw just a ton of processing time at very specific single problems. So if you have HPC nodes, you know it, right? Like these are generally very big clusters of computers. So it won't come as a surprise to you. Like you're not going to get blindsided that you didn't know you had these nodes, right? The vulnerability here is no user interaction required, unauthenticated remote code execution. So about as bad as it gets. If an attacker has network line of sight on these nodes, then they can just take them over and do whatever they want with them. So just as nasty as it gets, right? Not even very difficult. There's no race condition they have to satisfy, nothing of that nature. So just a straight up full takeover vulnerability. There is no.
Sorry about that. It's so loud here, so I've been trying to mute and unmute. I just wanted to ask. I mean, the HPC nodes or high performance compute nodes. These are often not just valuable in terms of the data, but they're running applications, right? It's high availability, zero downtime type of a solution. So when the customer eventually gets around to patching this, or when the administrator patches this, how are they going to do that without impacting the performance of the node itself?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely all about scheduling. These typically, you don't want these to go down in the middle of a run. It's typically uninterruptible, right? If you interrupt a run, you can lose a day, 3 days, 5 days worth of power. So we don't want to do that. In general, you'd want to schedule the updates on these very closely with your customers. Perhaps, with something like server automation, where we have really fine control over the exact order that things can happen in. So, working with whomever is using these HPC nodes is definitely key when you actually go to update them.
Okay, so for our customers, if you have a use case like this, you definitely want to get in touch with your customer experience executive or in touch with your technical advisor.
Yep. And one other little note here, there is no fix for this on HPC version 2016. There's no patch for that. So if you are still running on 2016, you have to upgrade to 2019, or at the very least, keep these just off the internet, right? Like an HPC 2016 node needs to be just fully isolated. Otherwise, you're in terrible trouble here.
Okay, this is really good advice, Joe. Thanks. And yeah, it sounds like that 9.8 is accurate.
Yeah, full on. Yeah. All right, so another critical here. This one at first glance looks similarly terrible. So it's a vulnerability in NTLM. It's a no user interaction network vector elevation of privilege. So at first glance, it looks super bad because NTLM is everywhere. It's on every operating system, and the combination of no UI and the network vector is just really easy to exploit. However, this is a good reminder to check the score metrics. There's no mention of this anywhere in the text of it, but in the score metrics, it notes that it requires low privileges. And so that's very different, right? So no UI with no privileges required is a initial attack vector, like you just take it, right? The attacker just, if they can see it, they can take it. With low privileges required, that means that they have to exploit an account somewhere already. So that changes this from an initial attack vector, which is the worst part, right? Those are the ones we really need to close, to an escalation of consequences when you have an exploit that's been successfully taken advantage of. So very, very different when you just take a look at the score metrics.
Do you think the score is accurate?
Yeah, I mean, scoring wise, it's the scoring for CVSS2 is very mechanical, right? There's not a lot that you can it's not context sensitive is the main problem with it. And so it's missing that little bit of context where like if it did have no privileges required, I think it would be like a 9.2. It wouldn't go up very much more from where it's at right now, but would be infinitely more threatening.
Okay, thanks for the guidance on that. I think the really big takeaway is to think about how the vulnerability can be attacked or utilized or leveraged, and that the score doesn't tell the whole story. I know we sort of talk about this every month, but I don't think it becomes any less important.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and especially when you're thinking about how to escalate, like the initial look at this is, oh, gee, I need to patch everything immediately because every Windows system is vulnerable. Whereas when you look at the score metrics and find that low privilege required, suddenly it's not as worth taking the risk of instantly patching all of your boxes everywhere.
Actually, could you go back and take another moment, not so much on this vulnerability, but tell me more about the risk of patching all the machines right now, everything, everywhere, all at once?
Yeah, certainly. So, best practice is to mitigate your risk of patching by doing kind of rings of patches on your endpoints. So, maybe pick a very small group, as low as maybe 20 or 100 systems that you initially pilot a patch out to, see if anything bad happens to them. Do you blue screen? Do they have to roll back? Does performance suffer? Do any of your applications break, right? That's what you need to find out in that initial ring. And then the next ring is, it's quite a bit bigger, a significant fraction of your enterprise. So maybe 10% of your boxes. This gives you a view on the smaller percent chance breakages, right? So maybe if you have 1% of machines that you patch break because of something that's in the patch, you find out then in that ring, and then you have saved yourself the risk of breaking 1% of your total machines, and instead you've broken 0.1% of your total machines, right? So that's where the risks lie. They're in these really small edge cases, but when you scale them up to your whole enterprise, suddenly 1% of all of your systems breaking will completely overwhelm your support apparatus, right? And so that's where the risk happens of escalating and accelerating patches to all of your endpoints right away. So you have to calculate the risk of, okay, if there's something a little weird in this patch that breaks 0.5% of my systems, that's going to break my help desk for like a week, right? And
right.
Is that
So
worth?
You can calculate it out and kind of predict what the impacts. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think there are some organizations that already do this, right? We have customers that do this, but we also have customers that would say, isn't it more risky to just leave the vulnerability there? And so I think there's I think there's sort of an interesting conversation that could happen just around this area. I'd almost like to see a webinar about this in Decoded.
Yeah, sure. We'll do it anytime.
I think we should do that.
Yeah,
All right.
risk management is definitely a whole art.
Yes. All right. Well, let's move on. I don't want to hijack the briefing room on this. Graphics Component Deluge. Oh my.
Yeah, this is another one of those things where, again, we're deep into Streisand effect here, where last month, if you guys may remember, we had a fair number of graphics components vulnerabilities. It was, there was an issue where just viewing a JPEG could trigger remote code execution, right? So there were several like that last month. And security researchers, they just see that there is a trend in vulnerabilities in graphics components, and then they will immediately, just as a collective group, hammer on graphics components. And that's what we saw here this month. We have another set of 4 CVEs that were found and closed, of course, just all in graphics related components, which, historically has not really been much of a thing.
So our attackers, attack groups and threat groups, I mean, I don't know them, so I don't know what they do, but the way you're describing how they're attacking things make me think that they're really coordinated and they're highly collaborative and thinking about how to attack large audiences when these little things pop up. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that they were doing something negative, like I would applaud the fact that they were going against these themes, right? I mean, I think that their ability to penetrate when they work collectively like that is much greater. It stinks for us, who are trying to defend our organizations. But are they getting more organized, the threat groups?
Yeah, so not to drop any extra nightmare fuel on you tonight, but remember that it's not threat groups that publish these CVEs. A threat group will never publish what they find. So we don't know what the threat groups are researching. We know what they're exploiting. When we detect an exploit somewhere, we know what they have targeted, but we don't know what they're researching. All of these CVEs that we see are generally from just research groups like the white hat hackers, right? The people that are trying to find these to close them before an actual threat group gets a hold of them. And so they're the ones that kind of operate on the meme principle, right? So some security researcher found some graphic stuff last month, and then all of the other security researchers saw that there's pay dirt to be had there, because generally they get paid based on how many exploits they publish, how many CVEs they publish. And so it's really kind of financially driven, like the research is financially driven for these CVEs. And that's why it becomes this, this meme and / Streisand effect kind of strategy, where when they know there's new vulnerabilities to be found, there's new novel things to look at, they immediately all kind of swarm that new area.
Fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, Joe. I think a lot of people are going to find that pretty interesting.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not a completely wrong take. Try not to be too dumb here.
I mean, you're forming an assumption or a hypothesis based on the information you have, and that is how it appears, right? No more previews.
Yeah,
really?
I don't even change this slide anymore. So I get a different icon every time. That's as close as it gets. We only have one issue with Office in the preview pane this month, which is great, I guess. It's still there, but at least it's not like 5 like we had last month. Same deal as always. It's just a a maliciously crafted Office document can trigger remote code execution, and the preview pane is an attack vector. So if your preview pane opens this, it could potentially be a zero-click exploit.
Okay. All right.
I don't know what else to say. 10 seconds, that's all we got for this one. All right, and
what's it going to be?
Yeah, all right. So this month, we had an interesting story happen. You guys may recall a big evolution of the distributed denial of service attack a couple of years ago with the rapid reset strategy, which was basically an attacker sends a valid request to a server, and then they immediately send a cancel packet to the same server, and then just repeat that infinitely. And so that overcame the limits of how many simultaneous active connections a single address can have on these web servers. So it's a big thing at the time. Took down plenty of I think Cloudflare went down for a while because of that one. And so fast forward to today, we have another evolution of the denial of service attack, and that's the major reset attack style. We'll call it an attack style. It's very similar to rapid reset in that they send a valid data packet, just a valid TCP frame, but then immediately send an invalid control packet to the same server. And it acts exactly like rapid reset did, only with a just very slightly different style.
Yeah, I just really, yeah, okay, yeah. That's a mess. Okay.
Yeah, and so one of the interesting things here is kind of the difference between like the white hat and black hat groups that we just talked about. The researchers for Major Reset here disclose this to anybody that would be affected, like all of the application owners, like Cloudflare and like Google, like all the other big internet providers. They disclose it to them privately first. A long time ago. There was no, at least as far as I could tell, there's no indication of exactly when they found this out. But when it was published this month, it had been mitigated at all of the major providers already. So because it was a white hat group that was interested in really just the security of the internet as a whole, we didn't really see any fallout from this. This was made public earlier this month. No, 2 weeks ago. Sorry, it was late August, a couple of weeks ago. And really nothing went down. Like there wasn't really any internet stability. So that's the real difference between, people who are just kind of in it selfishly to exploit stuff and people who are in it to protect the internet.
I agree with you. I think you found really the most interesting angle of this story is that the way this whole vulnerability and exploit machine operates isn't just a simple pattern, and that there's so many players in it. So I think that's really interesting that the white hat groups notified all the people that could have been harmed had it been published sooner. And that could segue right into some of the things that are making that more challenging, like AI deciding to publish vulnerabilities when it finds them, and it doesn't really think about, is that a good idea? So yeah, thanks, Joe. This is a great story. That's it. All right. So we've got our new release of compliance. So I see some new support. Do you know about the ESXi support? I knew about the mobile support.
Yeah, so we just support checklists for ESXi and mobile. We've also improved our accuracy on our vulnerability data sourcing. So we should have just increased accuracy on all of the NVD sources. And of course, the additional operating system support. So, just good functionality improvements all around.
Yeah, and then just some updates for the third-party libraries. This is great. Compliance is it's. I think we don't talk about it a lot because most of the time what we're doing is really just updating those content streams, right? We're adding new new checklists for different types of industries. And then there's all the support. We support so many OS platforms. Like it's just a constant net. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, like as soon as you're done, you got to go back and start over again because there is so much content. So I feel like we should start talking about the solution more because I think we're not patting ourselves on the back enough about the capabilities and features. We tend to get a little
we release
on the
we
current.
release we release so many content updates for compliance.
I
Every
know.
time I go to just review what happened this month and see what we need to add here as, you know, our what's new in BigFix section, I have to scroll by 4 pages of compliance content updates before I get to just anything else. It's just such a massive amount. It's an almost annoying amount of new content. It's just fantastic.
Well, and then the benefit of that is for our customers that have very, very heterogeneous environments with all kinds of stuff. Like we got you. So, you know, we're keeping it up to date. You can definitely use our solution. It'll work across all your operating systems and versions. So it's and there's more coming. I gave a roadmap yesterday and saw in the deck there's so much more coming. So this is really great, Joe. Thanks for reminding us. And I think that's it, right? So if you're still with us, thank you for staying. We're going to be here again next month in October with more stories about vulnerability management, patch, and all kinds of exploits and stuff like that. So thank you, Joe. Really appreciate you. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next month.